Welcome to This Explainer. Let's jump right in because today we are unpacking what is absolutely one of the most highly debated and technologically ambitious pieces of consumer hardware we've seen in the last decade. We are talking about the Apple Vision Pro. This isn't just another gadget, folks. This is Apple's very first major new product category since the Apple Watch launched all the way back in 2015. So that brings us to the giant elephant in the room. Is this device the inevitable revolutionary future of computing? Or is it, at the end of the day, just a very heavy $3,499 pair of goggles? I mean, that lofty price tag sets an unbelievably high bar for success. It's a question that has totally divided tech enthusiasts, reviewers, and early adopters since it first hit the shelves. Now, you'll almost never catch Apple using the phrase VR headset or virtual reality. They strictly avoid it. Instead, they insist on the term spatial computing. The whole idea is to seamlessly integrate digital media with your real physical world. And the way you interact with it? There are no bulky plastic controllers here. You use the most natural physical inputs you have, just looking with your eyes, pinching your hands, and speaking with your voice. Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, defining the Vision Pro. Second, a decade of development. Third, under the glass. Fourth, the software and ecosystem. And finally, reception and M5 evolution. Let's get started. Section 1. Defining the Vision Pro. Bridging the virtual and real. Okay, so here's the thing. Traditional virtual reality is inherently isolating, right? You slap a screen over your face and boom, you're completely cut off from the people in the room with you. To solve that, Apple engineered a wildly complex solution. When you set up the device, it scans your face to create a 3D digital avatar they call a persona. Then, get this, an outward-facing OLED screen on the front of the headset actually projects a real-time rendering of your digital eyes outward to anyone standing nearby. They call it eyesight. It lets people know if you're fully immersed in an app or if you can actually see them. Now, sure, some users definitely found the digital eyes to be a bit uncanny, but it really shows Apple's sheer determination to keep you connected to the real world. Section 2. A decade of development. The road to Vision Pro. This product didn't just happen overnight. The foundation was laid way back in 2015 when Apple acquired a German augmented reality company called Medio. A couple years later, in 2017, they bought Vervana, a company with tech that allowed for true color animations to be overlaid onto the real world with basically zero lag. But internally, it was a rocky road. There were heavy clashes between Apple's engineering team, who really wanted to build a hyper-powerful headset, and their famed industrial design team, who aggressively pushed back against anything that felt too isolating. It literally took until the 2023 Worldwide Developers Conference for the device to finally see the light of day, right ahead of its 2024 US launch. And just to put the sheer scale of that decade-long development into perspective, 5,000. That is the staggering number of patents Apple filed just to bring this one single device to market. It's a monumental research and development effort to invent technologies that, well, quite literally didn't exist before. Section 3. Under the glass. Translating the massive specs. Let's look at how all of this builds into an absolute powerhouse of a machine. It isn't just running one processor. It uses an M-series chip, literally the exact same one inside MacBooks, paired with a brand new R1 chip that is specifically dedicated to processing an insane amount of real-time sensor data with absolutely zero lag. And the displays? We're talking micro OLED screens packing 23 million pixels. To put that in simple terms, that is more than a 4K TV for each eye. To make the hand and eye tracking work, the thing utilizes 12 cameras, 5 sensors, and 6 microphones. All of this computing power is sitting directly on your face, weighing anywhere from 600 to 800 grams, depending on your model and strap. To achieve that kind of density, the Vision Pro packs roughly 300 individual components into its curved laminated glass and aluminum frame. It even contains 2 microscopic cooling fans positioned right near your eyes to dissipate the heat from those heavy-duty processors. And they use active noise cancellation so you don't even hear them whirring. It's honestly an absolute marvel of miniaturization. Section 4. The software and ecosystem. Cracks in the walled garden. The headset runs on Vision OS, which is basically an operating system derived from iPadOS that lets you float app windows anywhere in your physical room. But despite the incredible hardware, Apple faced massive friction right at launch. Unlike the launch of the iPhone or the iPad where developers rushed to build apps, some major players actually held out. Netflix, Spotify, and YouTube all outright refused to build native Vision OS apps for launch. They even blocked their existing iPad apps from running on the device.
Because of that, users were forced to just use the Safari web browser to watch videos. Analysts largely point to strained relationships and intense disputes over Apple's 30% App Store revenue cut as the culprits behind this massive gap in the ecosystem.
Section 5. Reception and M5 Evolution, Iterating on Reality.
When it finally hit the market, reviews were deeply polarizing. Nilay Patel over at The Verge really captured it perfectly with this quote. He noted that there is so much technology in this thing that feels like absolute magic when it works, like, say, pinning a giant 100-inch movie screen over your living room wall, but it frustrates you completely when it doesn't, because the interface relies entirely on exactly where your eyes are looking. If the eye tracking is off by even a millimeter, you end up clicking the wrong button, and that leads to a pretty frustrating experience.
Joanna Stern from the Wall Street Journal echoed a very similar sentiment. She called it the best mixed reality headset she's ever tried, but bluntly stated, "These companies know these aren't really the devices we want. Until then, they're just messing with our heads." It highlights a really widespread belief in the industry. The Vision Pro, in its current bulky form, is really just an expensive, temporary bridge. The ultimate goal for all these tech giants is to shrink all of this tech down into a lightweight pair of everyday augmented reality glasses. And, the reality of that physical bulk became apparent to users very quickly. Early adopters neutrally reported some significant physical drawbacks. For instance, some users experienced spontaneous hairline cracks appearing right down the center of the front glass display. But beyond defects, the absolute most common complaints were severe eye strain from staring at the screens and intense physical discomfort. The device was putting heavy pressure directly on the user's cheekbones after only short periods of use. But Apple definitely didn't sit still on this. Fast forward to October of 2025, and they released an updated variant of the Vision Pro. They completely swapped out the original M2 chip for the vastly more powerful M5 processor. That extra power allowed them to push the display refresh rate from 100 Hz up to 120 Hz, which significantly reduced that motion blur and eye strain. But perhaps even more importantly, they completely overhauled how the device actually sits on your head. To finally solve that terrible cheekbone pressure, Apple introduced the new dual knit band in late 2025. They added a crucial upper head strap to distribute all that weight across the top of the skull. But they actually went a step further. They added heavy tungsten inserts into the lower strap to act as a physical counterweight. This pulls the heavy front displays away from the user's face, creating a much-needed sense of balance and stability. It was pretty much a clear admission from Apple that the original strap design prioritized sleek looks over ergonomic reality. Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought. Apple has clearly proven they can iterate on the hardware, quickly improving the comfort and the processing power. But is the Vision Pro ultimately just a heavy, expensive development kit? Is it just a temporary bridge until true lightweight AR glasses actually become technologically possible? Or has Apple laid the permanent foundation for a spatial computing future that's eventually going to sit right alongside the Mac, the iPad, and the iPhone? Well, that is something only time and perhaps another 5,000 patents will tell. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep your eyes peeled for the future.